Hello everybody, and thank you for accessing this professional development session. My name's Helen Scanlon. I work for NCFE as part of the provider development team, and I've been working in education for about 30 years. Today we're going to focus on assessment, but we're going to use a bit of a festive theme.
And my name's Rachel Webster, and I'm also part of the provider development team here at NCFE. Helen and I are going to discuss assessing evidence against criteria, looking at some of the theory that underpins the assessment, applying it to some example criteria, and then having discussions which are examples of standardisation, and think of us as assessors participating in a standardisation activity. So, Helen, what's the underpinning theory we're going to be using today?
Thanks, Rachel. So thinking about what we should be considering, the areas can be seen on the screen now. So when carrying out assessment activities, assessors should consider how valid and authentic the evidence is. Is there sufficient evidence to fully meet the criteria? How up to date and current it is, and to what extent it can be reliably attributed to the learner who is presenting it. Rachel, is there anything you'd like to add to that list?
Just the importance really of the action words and using the evidence presented to maybe identify different grades as well.
Absolutely, we can have a chat about, pass merit distinction and the differences there, can't we? Okay, thanks, Rachel. I'd like to briefly talk about the assessor being the guardian of the standards. So, as all qualifications at all levels should confirm a specific degree of knowledge, skills and competencies, the assessor's role is to ensure that the person being assessed does have all those required levels. I used to teach hairdressing and beauty therapy, and I used to assess it too. And awarding a qualification to someone who wasn't proficient in all aspects of that job could be a disaster. So could you imagine having a bikini wax, an eyelash tint, or hair colour performed by someone who wasn't fully competent? Harm to the client could be the outcome, and I wouldn't want to impose that on anybody. My own professionalism as an assessor could be called into question, so I had to be 100% certain that awarded certificates were given to fully competent students. And that's what I mean when I say assessors are guardians of those standards.
Great, Helen. Okay, let's put that into practice with some festive theme criteria.
Brilliant. So this is just some criteria and some evidence that we're going to have a chat about and discuss, yeah?
Yes.
Okay then, so here's some criteria. And we're going to have some learner evidence to discuss. And what we're going to look at is to see to what extent it meets the criteria on the screen. So this first one says, demonstrate how to respond to a festive party invitation appropriately. So let's start bringing up some evidence. So evidence number one looks like a learner has sort of screenshot a text conversation as their evidence. So you've got someone asking a question. I'm having a do. Do you want to come? No, I'm working. What do you think, Rachel?
Oh, well, they have responded, but let's have you got any more examples before we can compare?
Come on then. Number two. Bit more detail we've got now.
Yeah.
So same question. Reply, I'm working till 6. Bit more detail. Okay then. They've responded again, haven't they?
They've responded, yep. And I'm just going back to the criteria and just looking at our action words. So we're looking for the demonstrate, aren't we? So that's just keeping focus on what we're actually trying to pull out all the time.
Yeah, good point. Let's get another one up then. Same question, bit of a more positive reply. I'm working till 6 again. Yeah, a bit more information from that reply again. And then sounds good, PLZ, count me in. I'll get in touch with Nick to sort, and that's the Nick cab share thing. So those are 3 responses. Are they all appropriate? I guess is our first question. Are they appropriate to that task?
Well, depending on the audience, really, that should be sort of key. But
Yeah.
in this example, that they are quite poor, but they are replying. They have responded, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah. And I guess, I mean, does our sort of standards come into this? I know we're having a standardization chat here, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that number one. I wouldn't have been very happy with that reply to my invitation if I was sending that.
yeah,
Um, Second one's a bit better. The third one seems the most appropriate, but
yeah,
you're right. The audience comes in a bit, doesn't it? And
yeah,
would a younger person say number one's fine? Would
yeah.
because they're more used to texting. They've always been texting. We haven't always been texting, but if this is a texting example, a text would be an appropriate way to respond if that's how you've been invited. But they're
I would
very,
like to
very
see
different,
other
those three, aren't
forms. Yeah, I would like to
they?
see other forms of evidence to back this up as well.
Mm-hmm. And even some kind of annotation or some kind of something that goes alongside with it, saying
Yeah,
why they think it's demonstrating appropriate
yeah,
ways to respond. I don't know. Um, but I think what's important is you and I would probably therefore agree that number three might scrape a pass because it's got the most detail, but the other two not so much. You would want more
yeah.
from them,
We would
wouldn't
want
you?
more. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we move on to number two then?
let's go. To
So identify the type
identify.
of foods. Yeah. So it's an identify is very
Yeah.
important, that action verb. Yeah. So appropriate for a festive theme party. Let's start and having a look then. Number one. What do we make a number one, this list then?
Well, the identifying items. Let's have a look at the items. Is it festive?
Three chicken nuggets rather than just
Ooh,
chicken nuggets. Brie and cranberry. Cranberry's quite festive, isn't it? That's
yeah,
and normally this time of year, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, that could be any party really if it
It
just didn't have
could.
that word tree on, couldn't it? So
Yeah,
I'm not convinced they know that they being the student learner knows that those would be appropriate for a party. So let's
festive.
look at number
Yeah,
two. There's some photographs. Well, that's festive, isn't it? There's like a little tree in the bottom there. That looks like some more nice cheese. But um, what is the learner showing us that they understand that that's appropriate food for a party? It's it's a snapshot of a picture of somebody else's
yes.
party food, isn't it?
It certainly looks like it.
I'm not convinced that would meet the criteria. Okay, another menu um, with some
Oh,
annotations.
I like that.
What do you like about it?
I like the annotations. So
Yeah.
they're not just identifying festive party menu, but they're putting a little bit thought behind it.
hmm
So why they're selecting that?
hmm I like the notes as well. They're obviously and picking out vegetarian and vegan options there, which is quite good. And there's healthy options.
Yeah,
You've still got those tree nuggets. So maybe that looks like number one, but with a bit more detail. Do you think it's?
yes, it looks like that.
hmm Okay, and then we've got another one for here. A post-it note with a list of things on. They've crossed
Mm,
out cake and put chocolate log. Chocolate log's festive, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, Still
It,
not a lot there, is there?
yeah, it would be great to see a little bit more detail. Do you agree? Like, for
Yeah.
example, how maybe going into
hmm
that sort of more detailed stage in the
Yeah,
annotations.
yeah, yeah. So I think number three is the best one there.
Out of thought, yeah.
Number one's probably second best, but number two and four don't really cut the mustard at all, do they?
No, not
No. Okay. So
fully
are we going to
agree.
scrape a pass on number three, possibly?
Yes.
Yeah, but the other ones, no, I'm not
No,
convinced that accurately identifies. Okay,
agree.
shall I look at number three?
Let's have a look at three.
So the final festive criteria, analyze the type of music which would be good for a festive party. That's a big word, analyze, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Shall we start putting the examples up here then? Right. So someone's notes, they've got
Yeah,
a table there, so it's
yeah,
quite nicely presented. The different types of music and genres with some thoughts. Do the thoughts start to carry out some analysis, do you think?
yeah. They look like they're going into a little bit more detail around the choice. So looking
Hmm.
more at the why.
Yeah, yeah.
It would be good to see it further expanded to show how, but it's getting that it's getting to be a little bit more detailed, and it's always important to remembering and that the student, your learners, understand the criteria and they
Hmm.
understand what they need to do for analyze. It's really important, isn't it?
It is, it really is. And I've just noticed as well, the other thing we haven't talked about in any of these is what level they're all at. We
Right.
haven't assigned a level, it's like a generic level as
Yeah.
well. But you can kind of think that when you start to bring in the word analyze, you're talking level three maybe, and
Yeah.
even above.
Yeah.
So having the level in your head is quite important as well to say, have they met that criteria at this level? Do you think?
Absolutely. And that's where I would be saying, well, just for example, the first column there, so carols. So they thought, oh, well, it might offend people. It might. Um, but why? It would be a little
Mhm.
bit more description around their thoughts to really analyze it.
Agreed.
And and it could be it mightn't, or is it all atheists attending, so we need that more detail to say yes, that understand what they're talking about here.
Absolutely. Agreed. Let's get the other two examples up then. So we've got a screenshot of some Christmas music. So that's, I would say, what's being put into a search engine there is tell me some music that would be good for a festive party. And that's what's
Yes.
popped up there.
Yeah.
So if it was identify,
Hmm.
um, it would be easy to say, well, they've been identified. We'll come back to the theory again in a second that we
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, because we'll bring that back in. Um, but there's no analysis there at all, is there?
No, nothing.
It's nice and easy. And then number three, then we've got what looks like another post-it type note about my favorite songs. So again, like number two, it feels to me that they are identification of
Yes, they've
some,
identified some,
yeah,
but
but they have
where's the
not.
analysis behind
Yeah,
it? Just
yeah.
because that might be their favorite song, where 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 they're getting this from and what
Yeah.
country are they searching in,
Mhm.
and yeah, it
Yeah,
needs a lot more detail.
it really does. Okay, then. Anything else you'd like to say about any of those three before we move on?
No, just going back to your point of the level. And if it is
Yes.
a level three, what you would expect from a level three learner, I cannot see that on this slide.
Yeah, not at all. If it was level three, I agree. I agree. So we'll do a quick recap, starting with that theory that we mentioned earlier, and we've added on a few more ideas that we've probably talked about already in our discussions.
Yeah,
Remembering how valid the evidence is. Is it authentic? Is it definitely being produced by that learner? Is there sufficient there to show the full depth and breadth of knowledge and understanding that's being asked for? What's the currency? How recent is it? And then how reliable is it? To actually assign that criteria as being met by that learner.
learner.
We've talked about clarity as well, haven't we?
Yeah,
Objectivity and bringing in the being objective, but also bringing in that why. Why are you saying that? And that's sometimes that deeper order thinking, if you like. Visibility is it, is it definitely the right evidence for the right student for the right criteria? And I think the biggest thing that we've kind of talked about, Rachel, is the depth and detail that's in that
detail.
evidence.
And that's so important. And along with the learner, your students are actually understanding the criteria.
Yeah.
And once they understand and all those command verbs of
Yes. Yes.
what they need to do, it's going to make their job easier as the learner to get the evidence because they understand what they need to do.
Hmm. Yeah. Does the evidence clearly map to what it's been claimed for?
Yeah,
How confident are we as the assessor
yeah,
in that piece of evidence? Um, is it sufficient? Is it current enough? Is it trustworthy? Um, and consistency is also a good word to bring in here, isn't it? Because if you're looking at more than one piece of evidence for more than one piece of criteria, can you see any differences in any of the evidence types or evidence detail and depth that's there? Because sometimes that can help the assessor think, well, has that been drawn from another source or has that
yes,
been um, plagiarized even kind of
yeah.
thing? Uh,
Because you get used to your learners and you get used to the styles and things do jump out when you can see that, oh, that's a bit different. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely agree. Anything at all that we've missed, do you think, in our recap?
No, I think we've covered the most important things.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've come to the end of the session. So thank you very, very carefully and briefly that you've taken the time out to listen to this. We hope it's been useful. We do ask for feedback. If you've got a smartphone or a tablet, you've got a QR code on there. Just takes you to a short Microsoft form to provide some feedback on what we've done today. We're always looking to improve our support offer. So thanks for taking the time to access this, but also if you could give us some feedback, I'd really appreciate it. Rachel, I'll hand over to you to say farewell.
Yes, and we just hope you have a fun, festive season, and we wish you all the very best in your future assessment activities. Take care. Bye bye.